Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow Toastmasters, esteemed members of Toastmasters International, and especially our keynote speaker, Toastmaster Maryam Gann. A very warm welcome to this Toastmasters Division G monthly workshop. I'm Titin, and I have the honor of serving as your host for today's session. Throughout the session, we will have the privilege to listen and learn from our keynote speaker, Toastmaster Maryam Gann. Toastmaster Maryam Gann is a proud member of Toastmasters since November 2021, and she uses it as a platform to improve as a speaker to be part of what she calls a beautiful community. Also a platform to share a message that she hopes will inspire others so that they can achieve their most ambitious dreams and turn their impossible into unstoppable. Maryam believes in the power of vulnerability and genuine connection, and she is passionate about meeting and engaging with people about you. So please don't hesitate to go up to her and to talk. She believes in avoiding the facade of perfection to engage deeply and authentically with her audience. Legally blind from a progressive vision from the age of 21, she shares her personal challenges and triumphs in her semi-final speech, The Straw, and her final world speech, You Have No Idea. Today, with her keynote, Unstoppable, Maryam invites us to join her on a journey climbing up from being a young, avid traveler, adventurer, and a lover of life to getting her diagnosis at the age of 21, being a professional makeup artist, to becoming a public speaker and getting to the World Championship of Public Speaking on her first attempt. She promises you nothing less than what is real and genuine, and promises an exciting ride with the title Unstoppable. We are very grateful to have you here, Taskmaster Maryam Gann. As we move forward, I encourage each and every one of you to be active participants in this workshop. We will have several exercises by Taskmaster Maryam, and to take advantage of this opportunity to engage with our keynote speaker, ask questions, perhaps share your own thoughts and experiences. So let us embark on this journey together and make the most of this fruitful opportunity. Without further ado, let us commence this workshop by welcoming the second runner-up of World Championship of Public Speaking 2023, Toastmaster Maryam Gann, Unstoppable.
Thank you so much for having me. Now, what if I told you that the one thing that is standing between you and your dream is the decision to become unstoppable? But what does it mean to be unstoppable? What does it take to become unstoppable as a person in your life and as a speaker? Well, that's the journey I'd like to take you on with me today. I'd like to share with you the insights and the tips that I've learned along my journey, from becoming a speaker to the challenges and to going to the World Championship of Public Speaking. Tips like how not to forget your speech. Tips like how to find significant stories to tell, how to find your story, how to craft a powerful message so that you can grab the audience, and the tips on competing that I have learned along the way, and the principles that I believe are important and crucial to becoming an unstoppable speaker. Now, many times in my life, I've almost been stopped right in my tracks, but something happened that changed everything for me. I'd like to give you some insight and some of my stories and experiences. So travel back with me. It's summer of 2005. I'm 15 in Spain on summer vacation with my uncle, my aunt, my cousins, and my adventurous uncle Hans. Hands down, the best uncle in the world. Now picture a supreme athlete with long blonde flowy hair, a sporty German with a smile that lights up the darkness. Uncle Hans's favorite sentence? Aufstehen, los geht's! Meine Nichte, auf Abenteuer, jetzt oder nie, die Zeit ist jetzt. Auf geht's! Vorwärts, ja? Which I should translate to you, right? Yeah. Well, in English, it means let's go on an adventure. A lot less dramatic in English. Yeah. Uncle Hans clearly lives for challenges. And his challenge to me that Friday morning, let's go to the beach for a swim. Yeah. And climb a cliff. No, not what I had planned for. We swam to the base of the cliff. I looked up and I thought, this is not a cliff. This is Mount Everest with sand. It's impossible. I can't do this. I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna hurt myself. I'm gonna die, or even worse, break a nail. But Uncle Hans kept challenging me. Come on, you can do it, yeah? And before I knew it, I was scaling up the slippery rocks covered in algae with Hans shouting in the back, keep moving, don't stop, reach higher, to the left, to your left. To my left, I wish he could have left me on the beach. That climb was more like extreme yoga, extremely hot yoga. All I could think was how I can get back down and go to the beach and relax. My inner voice kept pulling me down with discouragement. You can't do it. Just stop. While Uncle Hans's voice kept pushing me up with encouragement. Don't stop. Keep moving. Yeah? But it wasn't easy to keep moving. I felt like my life was literally hanging by a string, and so was I on that cliff. My hands kept slipping, the rocks felt like coal sizzling and burning under my palms, and I kept sliding down, and the sea salt was stinging my eyes. I couldn't see anything anymore. I kept losing sense of direction. Where is the rock? I can't see it. Open your eyes. To your right. Your other right. And even though I felt completely blinded by the sea salt and the sunlight, I suddenly got a vision of me making it to the top and conquering the cliff and being on that summit. And that thought gave me suddenly a rush of energy, and I started to feel unstoppable. So I kept going and I kept reaching higher and higher, and I got to the top of the first rock. I looked up and thought, oh, I didn't know hell was up on a summit. I felt exhausted. I was dying of heat and discouraged. And although I had nothing left in me, I kept moving and I kept climbing. And with more struggle and more stagger and more sweat, I finally made it to the top. For real this time. My skin may have perspired, but my soul was inspired. And you know what? There was not even a pitchfork or fire, because the only fire there was the fire burning within me. I made it to the top. I couldn't believe it. Have you ever reached your impossible? Standing on that summit, I felt unstoppable. And Uncle Hans looked at me and said, Wunderschön, wunderbar. Isn't this wonderful, Maryam? Yeah. Now we jump. Wait, what? Yeah? We've got to keep moving, yeah? Wait a second. I can't see the sea. You see, what I didn't know then is that that very moment had marked the first sign of my vision loss, a diagnosis I would only find out about years later. So this was literally going to be a blind leap of faith. And you know what he said next? Don't worry, I will guide you. Just make sure you avoid the 3 jellyfish on the right and the massive rock in front. Go on, jump. Massive rock? Jellyfish? Oh, that was rock solid advice. I tippy-toed my way to the edge and stopped. Standing there with my toes gripping the sharp rocks, I refused to let go. No part of me felt like I could do it, but Uncle Hans did. Just keep moving. Trust me, jumping is much easier than climbing back down. I knew if I wanted to make it past that edge, I needed to leave my limitations back on that edge. And so with Uncle Hans counting me down, 3, 2, 1, I closed my eyes. Oh wait, what's the point? I can't even see anyway. I held my breath and jumped. I felt like I was flying. Time stopped. But I did not. I plunged. I went in the water, surged back out, broke the surface, looked up at Hans. And you know what I said next? Again. And I did. I did it again. And then Uncle Hans asked me, now what? What is next? I don't know. But all I know is that we've got to keep moving. That jump may have lasted 1 second, but in that passing second is when I surpassed my limitations. After jumping off that cliff, I started to jump onto every opportunity that came my way. I started to travel by myself with my white cane. I took up kickboxing. I went back to university. I even started Toastmasters. I went go-karting. You should have seen their faces when I took out my white cane after going around the course. And I went and made it to the World Championship of Public Speaking. You see, I realized that that day on the beach, I did not climb a cliff. I carved my character and strengthened my spirit for the steeper cliffs ahead, like the one in 2011, when I was told I was losing my eyesight. And that cliff propelled me to heights I could have never imagined reaching, like the World Championship of Public Speaking. Friends, if I could climb that cliff and conquer that cliff, I, the worst climber you could ever find, then there is no cliff too tall, no summit too high, or no cliff too steep for you or for any of us. Now I ask you, what are the cliffs in your life? What does your cliff look like? Now, your cliff may look different than mine. Your challenges may be different than mine, and may be different than the people next to you. But one thing for sure is that every single cliff has a base, a climb, and a summit. And each one represents a different part and phase of our life. Now, the climb. My public speaking journey started way before Toastmasters. You see, I was walking back to my downtown Montreal in Canada, my apartment, after seeing the doctor and being told that I was losing my eyesight. I remember all kinds of ideas racing through my mind as I walked. I didn't even care to look left or right when I was crossing the street. People were honking, screaming at me to be careful. I just wanted to get home and be by myself. And as soon as I walked into my apartment, I sat down on the floor and I broke down in tears. And I thought, what am I going to do with my life now? I felt alone and lonely. I remember all I had was my phone in my hand. So I picked it up, I went on Google, and I started searching retinitis pigmentosa success stories. That's the name of my condition. And I fell on a story of this beautiful lady. Her name was April Lufrio. She was Miss World and Miss USA 2011. And she happened to have the same condition that I did, and so her two sons as well. And I saw all the success she had, being the oldest one to get the beauty pageant, having a marble company with her husband, becoming a spokesperson for people who have the same condition as myself. So I decided to write an email to her on her website, and she responded. And her message to me was, Maryam, all we need is the four-letter word, hope. And she wrote it in capital letters, HOPE. And she said, I turned my pain into my passion and my purpose, and so can you. And so I remember thinking of that and making the decision to walk through the doors of a vision rehabilitation center. I decided I was going to restart my life all over again. At the time, I was a makeup artist. I remember going to the center and they asked me, what do you want to learn? I said, everything. Teach me how to do everything again. I learned how to read Braille, how to access technology with voiceover, how to cross the street, listening to the traffic, how to navigate with a white cane, and the list goes on. And I remember one of the things that I did there is I had to find another career. And there was a specialist who was helping me do that. And as soon as I met with her, she was a younger French lady, very kind lady with a soft spoken voice. And she said, Maryam, I see you becoming a speaker and a coach to help others with similar challenges. I don't even need to do a test. I know this is what you're meant to do. She said, the only thing you need to remember is that you are going to be afraid, but you cannot let that fear take over your dream. You cannot let self-doubt get in the way between you and your dream. You need to remember to become unstoppable. And she had that beautiful accent. And I remember that day, I went to my first networking event with my white cane for the first time, and I felt so uncomfortable. I remember not even knowing what to do with my white cane. Do I stand straight with it? Do I fold it? Do I hide it? Do I use it as a microphone? Hello, my name is Maryam Gann. Nice to meet you. What do I do? I said, people are going to be looking at me. They're going to be judging me, criticizing me. What is this blind girl doing here? But all of a sudden, the speaker of the event came up to me and said to me, I'm so glad that you're here today because I wrote a book about a blind lady who walked a pilgrimage with me. And then he started to share the story. And other people started to come up to me and share their stories. And I started to open up about mine. And I realized that by being vulnerable, by removing all the facades, by bringing down and breaking down the walls of fears, frustrations, that I was able to connect with people. And that I too, like April Lufrio, found my why. And that inspired me. That made me feel like that gave me a revelation that we can find stories anywhere, that stories are all around us. It doesn't have to be dramatic because we can find the stories in the slightest, most trivial moments and turn those into profound, memorable, and emotional moments. And how do we do that? Well, I've prepared two exercises for you. The first one, and I'm going to have Titin help me, assist me with that. I would like us to, if you can, do it now. You're going to have your next speech. So this exercise really helped me. It comes from a book from Dan, or I can give you the name later, but it's a very good book, Story Worthy. That's what it's called. His last name is Dix. And that exercise, you have to create a grid. So you put a plus sign with 4 different sections. First section is first, and then last. Then you have best and worst. So first, last, best, and worst. What does that mean? It means your first experience doing something, your last experience doing something, your best experience, and your worst experience. Maybe your first travel or trip, or maybe the last moment that moved you, something that really touched you. When is the last time you've been touched by a moment? Maybe your best trip, your best meal, your best friend, your best teacher, or your worst teacher. So I'd like you to write one in each section. One experience in the first time you did something, first job, first kiss, first love, and then the last time you felt or did something, and the best experience and the last experience. You can write one in each just for the sake of time. I will give you 3 minutes to write it down, and we won't share it just yet until the next exercise. So I'll let Titin moderate 3 minutes for you to take the time to write that down.
Yes, I will count the time. 3 minutes
Thank you.
starting from now.
And remember, it can be your first trip, your first love, your first kiss, your first job, the first day at school, maybe. I remember those days. Your worst or best gift that you've received.
Time is up. It's been 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Titin, and I hope you had some time to get inspired by these ideas. I encourage you to write as many as you can down for your next project, your next speech, your next presentation, or just even for yourself to have these moments, these memories, and these stories to tell. Now, remember that it could be any story. It could be as simple as when you were a child and you got lost in a shopping mall, or when you ran out of gas in your car on the side of the highway. This always happens to me on my motorcycle, but I use my white cane. And it could also be like the time that your uncle told you horror stories around a campfire. It could be very small, trivial moments, but they can definitely turn into memorable and profound moments. Now, how do we make them impactful? How do we make a simple moment become something impactful, deep, and meaningful to our audience? That is, my friends, through the message. And that is something that I learned along the way. The message is something that will transform your story and make it meaningful. It is your way to connect with your audience, and it is your why to the audience. What is in it for the audience? What are they going to take away from it? What is it that they're going to learn from that? Or how can you help them do something different after they hear your speech, or think differently after they hear your speech? And one advice I got from my coaches, so I worked with Mark Brown and Darren Lacroix and other coaches, and they shared with me a technique that really helped me. How do you find your message? They told me, Maryam, if you had to give advice to your younger self, the younger Maryam, or advice to your niece, your nephew, and if you have children, what advice would you give your children? What would be a life lesson that you would share with these people that you love, or share with your younger self? And Mark Brown said, if you had, God forbid, one more day to live, one more time to speak, one more message and story to share, what would that message be? What would you share with the world? What would be that lesson? And so I invite you now to do the second exercise. And if the bravest person would like to go ahead and share their life lessons, I'll give you maybe 2 minutes for that, and let Titin also moderate that. If you can write down 3 life lessons that you would pass on to somebody you love, a younger person or your younger self that you have learned, what would those lessons be?
Thank you. Let me start the time 2 minutes from now.
I know I would have a book of life lessons if I could go back. So we can do 3 for today, but you can definitely do more, of course, in the future, as many as you can. Maybe it was a life lesson or advice that someone gave you when you were younger too. That could also be helpful.
The time is up.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to invite anyone who is brave enough to share their life lesson. If you want to unmute yourself or write it in the chat and Titin can read it to me, please feel free. Go ahead.
Can I try?
Absolutely, please do.
Thank you very much. 3 advice I would give to the youngster.
Hmm.
Number 1, be persistent
Hmm.
in reaching your goal. Number
Love it.
2, never ever give up. And number 3, if you fail, don't worry. Try it again and again, but this time with a different method.
Oh, I like that. That's beautiful. Thank you. Can I have your name, please?
I'm Yusuf Chandra.
Yusuf. Okay, it's my brother's name.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, thank you
Yusuf
so
and
much.
Hassan.
Very nice. I'm gonna invite someone else if you want. This was really, really beautiful, and I have something that I can develop on that after if there's another person who'd like to come up and share their life lessons.
Can I go? Can I try?
Please, please. Yes, please.
3 life lessons that I have got from people I've met.
Mm.
If any opportunity comes to you, whether
Ah.
you don't know how to do it, just take it, because if you want it later on, the opportunity might not be there anymore.
Mm.
And the advice, just take it and you will learn how to do it later. Second life lesson, if I hear, I forget. If I see it, I will remember. And if I do it, I will understand.
Mm. Very nice.
And the third, just try. Trying is not, there is no harm in trying. Yeah.
Love it. Wow. And you said it yourself. Can I try? This was beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to take that lesson from you. Thank you so much. Especially the second one. And the first one, the opportunity is, if I can share that moment with you, is when I was with my father at the hospital. I talk about it in my final speech. I was asking him, I said, Dad, what's your biggest, greatest regret? And he said, the same thing that you said. There were opportunities that came my way. I didn't take them. They went away forever. They were forever gone. He said, because I asked him, I said, what do you think? I'm going to the Bahamas. He said, so my daughter, go for it. And he said it with an Arab accent. My daughter, go for it. Even though he was very overprotective. So I love the advice. Now, I like to mention something about that. So Craig Valentine, I don't know if some of you know him. He's an well, not ex, but he's a former world champion that I respect so much, and that I follow his everything that he does, and he gives amazing tips on public speaking. One of the things that I learned from him is to so now you have your life lessons. Now you can take that life lesson and put it into a sentence and to turn it into a call to action. So what do you want the audience to do with it in less than 12 words? So the reason for that, he says that when it's less than 12 words, it's easy to remember. It's more memorable for the audience. It's an easier way to connect with them. It makes it short, simple, and catchy. People can walk away from your speech and repeat that sentence in their head. Like when you said, if I see it, if I do it versus if I hear it, so something catchy, something short and sweet and simple. Yusuf, you gave a great example because they were also very, very short and very straight to the point. Now turn that into a call to action, put it in a sentence less than 12 words, and you've got your message. Not only that, but if you take those messages and go back to your stories that you did, that the ideas, the inspiration of your first, last, best, and worst, and go through the list that you did, I am quite certain that you can match a life lesson with one of those stories. And when you put them together, you've got yourself your next speech. And one more tip that I would love to share with you that I'm spontaneously sharing right now is something that I struggled with, and that was the title of the speech. I just like to let you know to not worry too much about it, to let that come towards the very end, not at the beginning, unless you have a vision of what your speech is about and you got that vision right away, because I had the vision of you have no idea, but let that come naturally towards the end and make it in a way that is going to pique the interest, not give away your message. So the message, the 12 words or less, should not be in your title because you're going to give it away. So put something else that relates to the story, but that will pique the person's interest, the audience's interest, without giving away your life lesson or your message. But ultimately, my friends, is that you can have a story to tell. You can make an impact. You can have a strong message. But it all comes down to one thing, and that is to remember your why. Why do you want to tell that story? Why do you want to share that message with the world? What does it do for you? And to remember to become vulnerable. That is your true way to connect with your audience. People will relate to you when you talk about your fears, your frustrations, things that truly, your challenges that you've gone through in your life. That is what the audience wants to hear. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. To me, that is called authenticity, being authentic. One of my coaches told me, he said, Maryam, on stage, who you are will shine brighter than what you say. People will know if you're being authentic. And no matter what you say, if you say it in an authentic and genuine way, your audience will receive it in a way that you want them to receive it, and you will create a strong bond and a connection with them instantly. Now we move to the climb. The climb. This is probably one of the toughest parts. Why? Because on our way up, on our way towards our goal, on our way towards the summit, there will always be challenges, obstacles, algae, rocks along the way. And there won't always be an Uncle Hans encouraging us. Maybe there are going to be too many people encouraging us. One quotation that I really like, quote that I like from Michael Jordan. He said, when you come face to face with a wall, with a challenge, don't turn around and give up and walk away, but rather find a way to go to climb up the wall, to go through the wall, or to work your way around it. And I say, do all three. Because it's about, not just about adjusting, it's about being adaptable. It's about taking these challenges, and more than just being adaptable and adjusting, but taking these challenges and turning them into opportunities. Let me share with you a little story about that. Before the district competition, I was speaking in another place, nothing to do with Toastmasters. 1 month before, it was in March, and the district competition was in April, and it was the first time I was competing that year. I was speaking, telling a story, and I remember that was before the competition. It was an evening in Montreal. I completely froze. I did not know, I blanked out. I forgot my words. I had no clue what I was going to say. And that never happened to me ever in my life because I always struggled with having too much to say. And I remember panicking and feeling so ashamed. I just wanted to disappear in that very moment. I restarted my speech, my story eventually, and I did it again. And it ended up very well because the audience could see that vulnerable side and could relate, and they were so encouraging. They saw my human side. But nonetheless, I felt like a complete failure. I remember even being completely silent on my way back in the car with my friend. And I thought, how am I going to avoid that? What if this happens to me during a district competition? I'm going to be eliminated on the spot. This is going to be the worst experience ever. So I had to avoid it. So what can I do to not forget my words? So I started to repeat my speech over and over and over and over again for hours. And I realized I was just at the second sentence after 3 hours. Well, that was not going to be very effective. It's kind of like reaching the top, but just the first rock. So I thought, how can I be more effective in learning my speech without using up that much time? So I came up with an approach that I called the 5-dimensional approach. It meant, because I couldn't see, because I can't see and I can't use my vision to look at cue cards, to read my text, it meant using all my other senses to learn my speech. So what does that mean? I call that the sensorial learning. I'm going to share that with you today. I actually figured it out without having a name for it, because I did it intuitively. I did not know this was actually a thing. It turned out to be something that actually exists. First, it's auditory learning. We have many ways of learning. Most of us are visual learners. Most of the world, we're visual. We look at something and right away, that's how we get the information. But there are other ways. One of the ways is auditory learning. So what do you do with auditory learning? How do you learn in an auditory way? So first of all, very, very simple, very straightforward, recording yourself. I know this may be very simple. It's not innovative, but we don't do it, and I haven't done it enough. And I started doing it, and it changed completely my way of learning my speech, of processing my speech, and even developing it. So recording myself and listening to it. Don't forget to listen to it. Listen to your tone, to the way you speak, to the emotion that comes across. And another thing is asking someone else to read it for you. So I always used to ask my brother, every time I would tell him, can you please read my speech? Because it sounds different when someone else reads it to you. Gives you an idea of how it would sound like to someone else's ears. So auditory learning, very important. In that same section, I'm going to add another tip, and that is to reduce the visual charge in your speech as much as possible. So when you are typing your speech, to narrow it down, each sentence to have less than 6 words per sentence, per line. Write it like a song or like a poem. Why? Because you don't want to write a very big paragraph full of text. This will be it will overwhelm you, and you will not be able to see the details of your speech and cut it down really to the most effective and most necessary words. So what I do is I cut down the sentences, make it very, very short, so that I can really break down my speech in a very effective and efficient way. So that's auditory learning. Second one is kinesthetic learning. What is that? Now, I use my body to learn my speech. I remember speaking to another runner-up, Linda Marie Miller, and she gave me advice. She said, Maryam, do not memorize your speech, but rather internalize your speech. Become your speech. Let it get into your physical body. And so I thought, how do I do that? So one way to do that is to use kinesthetic learning. And that means moving as you're learning your speech, but doing it with intention. For example, if you have a sentence that you keep forgetting in your speech, or a key moment in your speech that you really have a hard time or you really need to remember, you use gestures along with the words and repeatedly practice that. So say it out loud. If you want to say the number 5, say this, do this with your hand, say 5. 5, here, before, after. Use body gestures to match the words. You're not using it in front of the audience. This is just for practice. This is only for you. And if you do this 3 to 5 times, your body will remember it. And when you come to deliver your speech, without doing the gestures, your brain will automatically associate those words with the gestures you did, because it has now become physiologically built in you. Try it and let me know if it works, but it has worked for me. This is what I have done all the way through the World Championship of Public Speaking. And the third one is tactile learning. Tactile learning is similar to auditory, but it's with your feeling. let's say you have a word that you need to remember again. Pick up an object, hold it in your hand when you're saying that word or sentence that you're having a hard time. Every time you say that sentence, you pick up that object, you hold it, and then you put it back. You repeat the sentence, you hold the object, you put it back. I did it with a straw because in one of my speeches, I actually had a straw as my prop. But if you don't have a prop, you can use something else also for practice only. And so I remember that every time I would say, this straw changed everything, or I look through the straw and I'm saying something, I remember the specific word. Even if I didn't have my straw, I remember holding that straw because we hold memory in our senses. So your body will remember that you touched that object when you said that word. So using your other senses, not just your eyesight. Now, the two other ones are quite straightforward, but they're underused in my opinion. And that is visualization and emotional intelligence. Visualization is quite simple. You might have heard it before. Is to visualize yourself, to close your eyes, center yourself with no sound around you, and feel and see yourself in your mind. How are you acting on stage? Not acting in a way that you're acting, but how are you moving on stage? How is the audience receiving your message? Imagine them and visualize them happy, laughing at certain moments, clapping, having a great experience, you delivering with confidence. Visualize your gestures, visualize your movements, visualize everything that you're doing. And ask yourself, do I see myself doing these things? Do I see myself saying what I wrote in that very speech on stage? This really helped me. The other thing with visualization is to learn your speech in images, kind of like in a movie, like movie scenes. The first scene is that picture. The second scene is that picture. And have these images for every part of your speech. This will help you internalize it and memorize it. And the last one is emotional intelligence. This means you are paying attention not to the words, but to the feeling and the emotion behind that word. How does that word make you feel? How does that story make you feel? Relive that feeling and make the audience live it with you. Take them through an experience. I remember Darren Lacroix said, Maryam, don't deliver a presentation, deliver an experience. Create an experience for the audience with your emotions. And you will remember your own speech because we might forget what we heard. We might forget what people said, but we will never forget how someone made us feel. Maya Angelou said that. And so when you think of a word, example, if you say the word challenge, like I said in my speech, challenge, loss, what does a challenge remind you of? What is your last challenge that you went through? What does a loss make you feel like? What is a loss that you've been through in your life? Feel that loss and you will project it on stage and it will be very apparent. And you have got your 5-dimensional sensorial learning approach to learning your speech and building it into your body, literally, and embodying your speech. Now, remember, my friends, to become and be adaptable. I had to do that because I had no choice. I couldn't see, but I didn't want my not seeing to become my weakness and to weaken me. I wanted to turn my weakness into an opportunity. I wanted to turn it into my superpower. And you can do the same. Whatever you feel like is your weakness or is holding you back, take that, or whatever challenge that comes your way, take that and turn it into a way to propel you upwards and turn it into an opportunity. I'll always remember that quote from Bruce Lee. He said, become adaptable, become limitless, shapeless like water. Take water, put it in a vase, it becomes the vase. Take water, put it in a glass, it becomes the glass. Become adaptable like water. Adaptability is key. And now we go to the summit. Now that we've made it to the top, we realize that there is more. I remember coming back from the Bahamas, going back to Montreal. I'm at the airport. I'm carrying 2 trophies with me, one in each hand. I'm walking on the airplane, and the hostess is walking in front of me, the flight attendant, and my friend was behind me. And I had my head down, discouraged, disappointed. I felt like I had let myself down. I felt like I had let everybody down because I thought that inner voice was telling me, you could have done better. You messed up in so many ways. Why didn't you say this like that? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do this? And I was thinking of all the negative things that I did wrong, not even realizing that I was carrying 2 trophies. And all of a sudden, I heard people clapping on the airplane. I looked up and realized they were clapping for me. And the flight attendant turned around and said, I want to be a champion too. And I instantly said to her, but you are a champion. Everybody here is a champion. I thought, why do I not feel this way? And that is the self-doubt. When I sat down and I started to think, I thought of what Mark Brown told me. He said, I was backstage and I was very sad because I wanted to hear my name first. And he said, oh, young lady, if you know Mark Brown, you know he has a very memorable voice. He said, in 1994, I competed and I didn't even place. And you placed. Out of 9 people, I did not place. And I went back the next year in 1995 and I became the world champion. And I looked at him and I said, are you serious? You want me to do this again? This was so difficult. I realized on the plane that it's not the end. The edge and the summit is not the end. There is always more that we can achieve. But one thing we need to know, and I needed to know, is that I had given my all. I'd done my best and I did everything I could at that very moment. I realized that I was all in. And this is something that I learned along the way, being all in, being committed. And when I remember I had so many people helping me, so many coaches, too many of them. One was telling me go to the left, the other one go to the right. I realized there's no specific right opinion. Everybody is right. I could have gone left or right. I would have still made it to that same summit. I realized there's no wrong decision. I just had to do. And when I came to the edge, to jump off that edge and make that final leap into the World Championship of Public Speaking, I was on my own. But I knew that no matter what, I was going to jump, I was going to take that leap forward, and I was going to discover something beautiful lying in that sea. It was a sea of my potential. And I tell you, my friends, I want to share that with you and give it to you and remind you that when you are standing on that edge, hesitating to take the leap forward, when you feel like you might be alone, remember to jump, to take that leap. Remember that there is something beautiful waiting for you out there in that sea. It's your highest and strongest potential. When you're standing there with your toes gripping the sharp rocks and not believing you can do it, remember Hans's voice to move, to keep moving and to take that leap forward. And you will discover something you would have probably never imagined seeing before. And so I learned a couple of things. I remember my coach, well, actually one of my coaches again said, Maryam, in order to get in life what you want, everything you want, in order to get everything you want, you need to give everything you have. And I remember I said to myself, I gave everything I have. I gave my summer away. I gave my time. I sacrificed so much. I remember waking up in the morning, very early, 4:30 in the morning, going to bed at 2 a.m., working from day till night. No summer, no friends, no time for anybody, because all I could see was my goal, my objective. And so to me, that means being all in. Remembering your why from the base. Why did you do this from the beginning? Why did you start competing? Why do you want to write your speech? Why do you want to accomplish your level or be in Toastmasters or get a new job or a new role or a new position? And so it all comes down to that, my friends. I've learned so much at Toastmasters. I've learned so much throughout that journey. I've gained beautiful relationships, the ones that I have with you right now, the opportunity to share with you, to connect with you from across the globe. But there is certain things that I take away that I will never forget and that are so valuable, more than any skill, more than anything that I could have learned. And that is the values that I take away with me, the principles. And those principles are what I believe made me and can make you in turn become unstoppable as a speaker, as a person. And those are what I call the triple A: authenticity, adaptability, and being all in. It's like a triple A battery. It powers your journey forward. I take that away with me. I take that with me everywhere I go. I put together also a couple of tips that I've also learned along my journey for competing, and I'd like to share them with you as well. Number one is remember to know your why. Always know why you are doing something. When you forget, when you lose direction, when you don't know where you're going anymore, your why is your northern star. It is what guides you back and puts you back on track. Also know, the second one is know that there is no specific formula. There is not one path to get somewhere. I remember my mentor, Scott McLaughlin, told me, he said, Maryam, public speaking is 20% skill and 80% psychology. He said, it's not just a science. It's not just an art. It's a combination. It's a science and art, but it's mainly a mindset. So there is no specific formula. You do what works for you. But remember, while you do that, to be authentic, adaptable, and all in. And the other one is know how to take, that's the third one, know how to take feedback. Take the feedback from your peers, take the feedback from your mentors, take the feedback from coaches if you're being coached, but curate the feedback. Take some and leave some. Take whatever resonates with your heart, and what doesn't resonate, put it away. I had to filter that all along because I had so many voices telling me, do this, no, don't do that, do that. And I had to curate. And I felt like this was this could have been a double-edged sword. It could have helped me, but it also could have harmed me. So it's important to be coachable, to take the feedback and to run with it and try it. Try and see how you feel. If you don't like it, you put it away. The other thing is do the work. This is a message that I told myself all along. Every time I wanted to not do the work, I reminded myself what I wanted and why I was here. And I woke up, did the work. I wanted to be prepared before my speeches. I wanted to prepare in advance. So I was doing a little bit of preparation every single day. I allocated a bit of time every single day before my speeches, before my competitions. And even if I didn't have a competition, the year and a half before I competed, I started with Toastmasters. I wasn't eligible to compete, but I was simply a student, listening, taking notes, and practicing a little bit every single day. So I knew that I had to do the work in order to get there, put the energy in order to get there, be committed in order to get there. And the last thing is, remember that the only thing that can stand between you and your dream is yourself. No one else and nothing else is stopping you from achieving your biggest dreams. Now, I'd like to leave you off on a couple of words before I take questions, if there are any, is that no matter, my friends, no matter where you are standing right now, today, this morning, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are, no matter where you're standing in your journey, if you find yourself at the bottom of your cliff, looking up and thinking, how am I ever going to make it to the top, and thinking that it might be impossible and hesitating, No matter if you're struggling your way up, climbing that cliff and slipping from the slippery algae. No matter if you're standing at the top, you're at the summit, you've made it and you're enjoying the view. Or maybe you're standing on the edge, hesitating to leap forward and to make that final decision. No matter where you are, remember to always keep moving. And when you keep moving, regardless of the challenges, the cuts, the bruises, the algae, the slips, the falls, when you keep moving, you become unstoppable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tasmasar Maryam. It was very inspiring and insightful. Is
Thank
there
you.
any questions from the audience? No question from the floor?
Maybe from me, yeah.
Yes, Tasmasar Adib.
Because I think the Toastmasters is about self-development. So the question that's how do you develop an unstoppable mindset when you face with the challenge? That's the question.
How do you develop an unstoppable mindset when faced with a challenge? It's not easy because, of course, when you're faced with a challenge, all you see is the challenge. And so I was having that conversation with my mentor, and he said, you can choose to focus on the setback, on that difficulty, or focus on the solution that comes with it. Focus on the next step. Example, if I had, let's say if you forget your words in a speech, or I'm using small challenges, it could be a big one too. Or you made a mistake with your PowerPoint, you said something you shouldn't have to a friend, or bigger challenges. If you keep focusing on the mistakes, on the challenges, on the difficulty, you will only see difficulty, and you will not even consider becoming unstoppable, consider moving forward. I always recommend to shift your focus, to look the other way, and to look towards a solution. Even if you don't feel like taking that solution now and going with it, consider it, write it down, put it on the side, and go back to it the next day. And consider that solution every single day. Read it. I would write it down, record it, and record yourself, and listen to it again and again. And so it's a choice at the end of the day. It's a choice to either focus on the challenge or focus on the solution. That's what helped me. And actually, that's what I speak about in my straw speech, in my semi-final speech. I invite you to go listen to it if you haven't already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any other question from the floor to our keynote speaker, Tasmasar Maryam Gann? I guess no more questions.
One more.
Oh, yes, DTM Yusuf.
It was a very great speech to make a great speech. I wonder if you could share with me sometimes, maybe not now, how many times do you draft your speech before having a speech?
Yeah, so I can definitely share that with you. And if anybody has more questions, you want to connect with me, you can add me on LinkedIn, Maryam Gann, and I'll gladly answer more of your questions. But both speeches, yeah. So the straw speech, it kept changing slightly, a little bit, for months. And I would say, I'll just give you one example. The final speech, you have no idea. I only wrote it 2 weeks before the competition. The reason being is because I was going to deliver this one that I gave you, not this entire one, but the story of the cliff. But I wasn't feeling it at the time. It wasn't developed. It has changed now. It will keep changing. And I had a change of heart. I decided to give another speech. And I went back to my initial idea, which is you have no idea. and I only had 2 weeks to put whatever ideas I already had, put it together and make a speech out of it. And I remember rewriting over and over and over again. And one of my other coaches, Alexandre Matt, maybe you know him, he's second place from last year. He told me, okay, Maryam, we have to stop changing now because we have less than a week left. You need to learn it and we need to start the delivery. And I said, okay, I'm not changing anymore, no problem. So I sent him the final version. That was at night. In the morning, he wakes up and he messages me. He said, you sent me another version? I said, yeah, just one more version, you know? He said, Maryam, since last night, you have 94 versions of your speech.
Mm.
So I changed it 94 times overnight. And so this is just in one night. I think that we will never rewrite a speech enough times, but the lesson is do it, put all the work into it, but at some point you have to accept where you are and just let it be as is. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers my question. Another question is, keep wondering because every champion must prepare 2 speeches, right?
Yes.
Before the final one.
Yes.
That is very short time then.
It's
God.
very difficult, yeah, because I did not anticipate to make it past the district. And I was still standing on the summit, enjoying the view after the district because it was the first time that I ever have this experience and compete. And people were telling me, Maryam, write your speech. Maryam, write the second speech. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to go through anyway. It's, you know, and I got an email, I got a call from the district director, you're going in 1 month and a half. And that's when I thought, okay, this is real. Now I have to write my speech. So we have 2 speeches, yes, to write, and you have a day and a half between the semifinals and the final, and they have to be completely different speeches.
Mm.
Yeah.
So semi-final and final must be completely different.
Yeah, it's different.
My God.
It was, for me, they told, like, I felt like it might be a little bit harder to go through the semifinals because you're typically more people. So we were 28
Mm.
and it's 2 per room. There were 4 rooms that we're going through. And so because there's more people, there's less, you know, just it's harder to go through. And you have to have very solid speeches. And this was a debate for me. Which one do I give for the semifinal? Which one for the final? And my
That's
coaches
good.
were encouraging me to give the better speech for the semifinal so that you can make it through. So
Mm. Mm.
each one had their own challenges. Yeah.
So you have got your own coach, right, for the semi-final and final.
Yes. I have the same coaches for both. So it was Darren Lacroix, Mark Brown. I worked with many coaches, Verity Price, Alexandre Matt.
Wow. What an experience.
Yeah, it was very nice. I'm very appreciative towards everyone and grateful for that experience.
Thank you very much. I learned more. And the last question is, do we have to pay for the coach?
Yes. Yes. One of the things that I had to, you know, give everything that you have, I gave everything that I had. So I remember paying for the coaches, yes, for the sessions. And some mentors, of course, mentors usually do it out of the goodness of their heart and for free. But because these coaches have achieved great amounts of success and professional milestones in their life, now they charge, and it was all very worth it. Very much worth it. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I want to know. Because
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
very
it.
worth it. It's never a waste because I was being coached and I paid so much for this cliff story that I told you. I didn't use it for the world, but I'm using it now. So it's always going to be worth it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your amazing questions.
Thank you.
Okay, for the last time, is there any questions from the floor? Okay, no more question. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Maryam,
Thank you
for
so much
your
for having me. Thank you.
Would everyone please turn on the video, the camera, and let us give round of applause for our keynote speaker, Toastmaster Maryam Gann. Outstanding and stunning as usual. And I would like to express my heartiest gratitude for our keynote speaker for sharing with us to inspire us with a small token of appreciation, which will be shared by Toastmaster Tasya. Thank you, Toastmaster Tasya. Let me spotlight Toastmaster Maryam. And please allow me to take a screenshot of you with the certificate. Okay. On my count, 1, 2, 3. Picture has been taken. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you. Thank you so much.
thank you. And may I invite everyone to turn on the video for the group picture. Thank you. Let me take the group picture now. On my mark, 1,